Now is retired acting ICE Director Tom Homeland and Texas Congressman Jodey Arrington. Thank you both for joining us this morning. We love having you here. So, Tom, let's talk to you first about this gutting of the Homeland Security Advisory Council. Your thoughts, are you surprised, and what are the implications?
I'm not surprised, look, and I'm not upset for two reasons. Number one, the Secretary has full authority, and then we each serve at the pleasure of the Secretary. He can make as many changes as he wants. I've never seen a purge like this over 30 people. However, we serve at his pleasure. Second reason I'm not really upset is because this administration has clearly shown they're not going to enforce the laws of this country. And I'm a law enforcement officer. I spent almost 35 years as Border Patrol agent, special agent, first director of ICE, come up through the ranks. I put a lot of people in prison. We arrest people. We enforce laws of this country. And since this administration has clearly shown they're not going to enforce the laws on the border, they've gutted ICE, took 90% of their authority away. Border Patrol stations are now welcoming stations. I don't know what role I would have played, because they're certainly not going to listen to me, because I'm about consequence and deterrence. I'm about enforcing our nation's laws.
Absolutely. Tom, I know your participation in that council will be missed as someone with that depth of experience, as they say they want to redesign it with a more diverse membership, whatever that means. Thank you. Representative, we've heard calls for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to go to the border. We've heard the former President Trump may make a trip himself. You're about to take a trip to the border along with Tom Homeland. No better guide that you could have there than him. What are you hoping to see? What are you looking for in particular?
Well, Texas is ground zero, and the communities along the border are on the front lines and bearing the brunt of this self-inflicted disaster. So calling attention to the cause and effect of the Biden policies and listening to the local stakeholders, whether it's the law enforcement side or it's private landowners whose places have been ransacked, or the overrun and overwhelmed community leaders and in school administrators or hospital administrators. So we've got a lot to listen to, but the whole point is to expose what's happening and also call to account this administration for the policies that they put in place that have caused it, and get them to own it. I mean, that's the first step, is to own this. I'm not encouraged by the fact that Kamala Harris, who's the chief open border advocate, and her radical ideology is now going to be the prevailing agenda as the border czar. I'm very concerned about that, as all Americans should. It's the wrong message, but certainly consistent with what we've seen out of the Biden administration at this point.
Congressman Arrington, and Tom, I'd love to get you in on this as well, but first to Congressman Arrington. This week, several Democratic congressmen went down there. Barbara Lee, Sheila Jackson Lee, went down to the border and toured facilities and basically came back with the conclusion that it's not as bad as being painted by the right. What I'm curious about, Congressman Arrington, as you head down there, and Tom, about these delegations that go down and what they see and what they're allowed to see. I'm curious how controlled or how purposeful what they're exposed to is. In other words, even with the political spin and narrative you might hear from Democrats as what they see, are they just shown different things as well as, for example, that Senate delegation that just went down this past weekend? Congressman Arrington, to you.
They do have a dog and pony show that kind of cleans things up, I think, on the Homeland Security side. But that's why it's critical you talk to local stakeholders outside of Homeland Security and the Border Patrol. If you listen to Henry Cuellar, who was on Fox News with me the other day, he would tell you that there's a crisis. So there are some Democrats sounding the alarm, but the key is to talk to the local stakeholders, not just the folks in the administration.
And quickly, Tom, I know you know about this. I'm sure these are highly coordinated, choreographed tours on many occasions.
Absolutely. The congressman is 100% correct on the dog and pony aspect. But what I'm hoping this Codell does, and I'm also going to do, and this Codell, I'm sure, I want to thank the men and women of the Border Patrol, not like the president did last week when he accused the administration and border agents of letting immigrants starve to death on the riverbanks, and they did nothing. The men and women of the Border Patrol saved over 4,000 lives this year alone. They're American heroes. They put their lives on the line every day while we're sleeping in bed. They strap a gun to their hip and defend this nation. And their commander-in-chief vilified them last week, and the morale's in the toilet down there. So I'm hoping this Codell, which I'm sure we will, take time to thank the men and women of the board who know there's a crisis, and are going to explain that to us this week.
Yeah, important message. Thank you so much, Tom. Tom Homan, Congressman Jodey Arrington, with a beautiful painting behind him that I've been admiring throughout this segment, coming to us live from West Texas, where my in-laws they might be up this morning having coffee. Thank you for both.
Thank you
being
both.
with us this morning. All right.
Thank you.